Well, hey guys, welcome to the live stream. Ryland Russell here, coming to you from my office in my church, Central Baptist Church in Owasso, Oklahoma. Thanks for hopping on the live stream, or maybe you're watching a replay of it. We're going to just talk a little worship and tech news. I'll share kind of just some things that I've been up to, and then we will dive into a new worship song that has been kind of making the rounds, and kind of take it piece by piece and see what we think about it. A little get off my church lawn segment. And then we have 2 live streams from churches that have submitted live streams to evaluate, or really not to evaluate, but to give constructive, thoughts and feedback to them, because we're all about doing great things for the right reasons. So thanks for joining us on the stream today. Now we're at this camera. Which one do you like better? This camera. I like this camera. It's an 85mm Canon RP f1.8, hence the beautiful bokeh, or tone, as they say. Then we've got the G7 with the 12-35 f2.8. It's a much closer camera. I can touch you. Not as much blur. Still a great image. Yeah. I just thought I'd break out the RP. I did not realize that this camera can live stream unlimitedly. Like there's not a HDMI limit. I always thought that this camera had 30-minute like auto shut off thing. But I mean, I guess we'll see. I've had it on here and I think it's been fine. So yeah, if you have a Canon RP, you can hook it up and go for it. But that's just a for fun shot. So thanks for hopping on the stream. I want to know who is in the chat today, who is watching live today. I'd love for you to let me know where you're watching from. And especially today, what do you do at your church? Are you a volunteer? If you volunteer, what do you help with? Are you a sound guy? Are you running, stream directing? Are you somebody who plays in the band? Maybe you lead worship as a volunteer. You're part of the team. Put that in the comments. And I'm always curious who's getting the most benefit out of this content that I'm putting out there. And so let's see who is jumping onto the stream today. We've got Dave struck in on the stream today again. The stream quality is off the charts. Fire emoji, fire emoji. Yes. Oh, especially the Canon, he says. This guy. Yes, it's beautiful, isn't it? Full frame 1.8, 85 mil. Yeah. So, oh man, good. I see some questions popping down into the chat. Do that right now. I have a lot to share, but my favorite thing about doing these live streams really is just getting to talk to you guys, and we can help each other. So if you know the answer to a question, don't just wait. You can answer people in the chat. And if you are asking a question, if you'll do this for me, just write question at the beginning of it, and that way when I'm scrolling through my chat here on H2R Graphics, it's easy for me to find it. What have I been up to? I did not do a Sunday vlog this last Sunday. Instead, I posted a video on my channel of how much money I'm making doing YouTube now that I've been monetized for 30 days. More like 33 days now. And if you haven't watched that and that sounds interesting to you, I kind of break down revenue streams, if you will, that I've got in the online world, and kind of my thought process behind doing this YouTube channel. So if you haven't caught that and that sounds interesting to you, you can watch that after you watch this live stream, of course. So I put that out there into the world wide webs. This week has been a real busy week. I feel like fall is always so busy at church, because we're trying to really push it because people are back from summer vacations, and it seems like there's a little sense of kind of normal life again. So we've got things going like a new construction on our kids' wing that I'm having to figure out, iPad check-in stations and new Wi-Fi. I'll tell you about that in a little bit, and new branding and signage, and all that stuff falls under my responsibilities as the worship and media arts pastor. And so they're ahead of schedule, which is great, but also very scary because now we want to open it. So we got that going. We had our budgets are due. How many of y'all, this is budget season? Our budget starts over in January. We're not one of those churches that does it like I think we used to be like September it started over or something. I don't know. It's weird. But so we turn in our budgets. I can show you that. Yeah, because I've been working on my budget. We turn in our budgets and we present our ministry budget in full as a quad. We have 4 quads at our church when it comes to our budget process: missions, ministries, personnel, and admin, which is like, electricity, the building costs, all those kinds of things. So, here is my, make sure I'm clicking the right buttons here. Here's my little Google Doc that I send over to my pastor. I'm not going to show you all the numbers and stuff, just, I don't know, because I don't know if he'd be cool with that. But this is kind of how I break mine down because I'm the worship and media arts pastor. And that's why I asked that question in the chat. How much is your annual budget as when it comes to worship and media at your church? I know it can vary wildly. This year, I think I have $22,000. And that's what I'm going to show you is all the things that covers. Worship team ministry building nights, platform stuff, instrumental paid players, which I hire somebody every third, fourth week or so to play guitar for us, to give our church member a break. Song select, praise charts, planning center, church video license. I don't know why I've paid for the streaming license for years, but it's never been in my budget. Musical instruments, that'd be like a new keyboard or whatever. Finale, Reason, all those editing software things, Ableton, CCLI. Took out drama resources because we don't do drama enough to have its own little line. Put in some content creation stuff. We have events, nights of worship. Then I'm trying to plan for things in the future, incrementally. So it's not like I go to them and say, hey, I need $10,000 to update all of our Mac minis. So we're doing a little bit at a time. This is just kind of how I do it, break it down. It helps me actually present a realistic budget. There you go. That's how much I'm requesting. And then I break down some special projects on the horizon, things that, probably would never fit into an actual just like budget line, but, maybe we can plan for those in the future. So that's kind of been my life this last week. And also we redid our church photos yesterday, our staff photos. So I had to take all of those and edit those yesterday and today, got those up and going, which is very exciting. We haven't updated those in a while. And yeah, so let's see who is dropping into the chat today. Let's see. We've got Josh here from Frisco, Texas. What's up, Josh? Good to see you again. I'm not sure how to say your name. Melindy sings. My wife's name is Mindy, so must be like Melinda and Mindy combined. From Nashville, Tennessee, tech leader and a newbie. Awesome. Willie's in the house from Clinton, Massachusetts again. Awesome. Oh, look here. Watching down the road in Tulsa, TAG Productions. I'm not sure what church TAG is, but that's cool. Green Country. Yes. Julian's here. I think he lives in Germany, I'm pretty sure. Good evening, he says. Yeah, it's 2:30 p.m. here. Willie says he's the audio video director and any tech related. Yeah, we know how that goes. Getting as much knowledge from other churches. Awesome. All right, let's jump into some Q&A here, and then we'll move on to some other stuff. But so if you have a question, put it in the chat right now. Willie asked a good question. How much would it cost to have an app for my church? So, we do have an app for our church. I have looked at updating that app to go with like Subsplash or something like that, and I believe it's pretty expensive. I want to say if you have an app, you can put your monthly costs in the chat. That's great. I think it's like $300 or $400 a month, depending on what things you go with. Like Subsplash offers live streaming, and maybe they offer other little add-ons you can do. Our app is essentially, I got in on some deal that this app creation company was doing where it was a one-time fee. I think I paid $500, and it's not the greatest app in the world. It's essentially pulling a bunch of like RSS feeds from different services that we use, whether that's YouTube or our podcast stuff for our series stuff. And then it's really all it's doing is sending people to like the giving page within that app. It can embed like a web page in there, or you can redirect them onto Safari or whatever browser they're using on their phone. It does have some cool stuff about it though. They can go into the app and do the message notes live that we do. If you haven't ever watched that video about how we do our digital sermon notes, you can check that out on my channel, but we embed that in our app. So for us, it was a one-time cost of $500. And then you have to also take into account, Willie, you have to pay for a Apple developer certificate program every year, which is going to go up every year. I think right now it's around $80. Could be more, I'm not sure. And then also your Google Play store, you have to pay to be a developer for that as well. And it's cheaper. I think it's like $30 or $40. So there's lots of ways to go around it. And then the real question you have to ask yourself is, do we need an app or do we just need a really mobile friendly website? So we use Divi for our website. And honestly, It's great on mobile. It's responsive and all those things. So those are my thoughts initially on the app. All right, let's see what other questions we have. Did y'all just hear that little? Oh, here comes my pastor. Come on, get in here. Get in here.
I just want to get on the live stream.
That's my pastor.
I'm famous now. Woo!
That's my pastor. Let's go, baby. Did you just? Thank you. Lock that door behind you. Oh, I love him. Did you just hear some little ding from my computer? I thought I had every sound disabled, so maybe it came through the YouTube chat thing or something. I don't know. Here's a question from Dave. Do you recommend streaming over Ethernet or USB-C when using the ATEM Mini Pro in terms of quality? So, Dave, what I've noticed when it comes to the ATEM, right now I'm streaming from an ATEM Mini Pro, actually. And right before this, I was doing a call through Restream, actually, trying that out. It was okay. But I was using the USB-C output. And I think if you don't already know this, most people have kind of figured it out by now. The USB-C output, when you use that as a webcam kind of thing into like a software like Ecamm Live or whatever you want to choose. Why did the free one just escape me? Y'all know what I'm talking about. The USB-C port adds a bunch of contrast and kind of changes the image. And so right now, I would much prefer, and then you're asking your computer to do the encoding now of that stream. So if you have a Mini Pro or an Extreme, definitely plug the Ethernet cable in and just use the on-air button on your ATEM, because it's going to take care of all the encoding, and it's not going to force your computer to do the encoding, which is not a light process. And also the image is going to be better than if you use the USB-C into your computer. The only reason I would do that is if you're using OBS, that's the one, or Ecamm, to add lyrics that you cannot output into your ATEM because you don't have enough, physical inputs or whatever. So that's my thoughts on that. Let's see. Oh. Bradley loves the new camera angle. It's fresh. Isn't it, though? It's nice. I need a Stream Deck so I can just sit here and not have to worry about reaching around and punching buttons on the ATEM. But, yeah, it's a very nice camera angle. So I have to be on this one, though, for looking at my computer. So, sorry. Live production tips and tools. Can you share that budget breakdown sheet for download? Probably without numbers would be great. Yeah, I can do that. I'll just take off that column where it has all of our stuff. I don't know why it would hurt for my stuff to be on there, but I'll ask my pastor if I'm allowed to do that. And then he'll have to go, since we're Baptists, he'll have to go to the committee. The committee will then either vote to approve it, that I can give it out, or they'll go to the committee on committees and ask the, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, if that would be helpful, maybe I could do that. Let's see. What else have I been doing this week? So something that we are doing in the upcoming probably couple of weeks is we are adding all new Wi-Fi access points to our building. We're going with Unify. We were trying to get their newer stuff, but it's out of stock everywhere. So we were able to get some of the Nano HDs. And I've got a buddy that he works in the kind of networking world, and so he created, what's cool with Unify is you can create these heat maps where you can go in and put the access points wherever they are to scale on your building. And then like this is the 2.4 gigahertz, and you can do a 5 gigahertz heat map as well. And it's not going to be perfect. I mean, there's reflective surfaces, there's glass doors, there's things like that are going to play with the signal, but this is a good starting point. And so I think we have 14 APs that we're going to run throughout our building. Currently we are using an open mesh product, and they no longer make that, and they sold it to another company. And I talked to that company for support, and they were like, yeah, we're not really ever going to update those. Like we don't really do that for business. So they're more like commercial switches and things like that, I think. I'm not sure. So this is kind of our plan. You can see there the layout of our building. But so that's definitely a big thing on the horizon for my intern to be running Ethernet cable. And a lot of it won't be too bad. It's just we're trying to really be purposeful about where we place these, because before I've just kind of like put them in the easiest spot. Like, here's an Ethernet jack in the wall. Let's just sit it on the floor next to it on a little thing, or mount it on the wall facing this way. Well, now that, I'm not a Wi-Fi installer, so I'm learning a lot though through this process. But the reason we're having to do that is because we're moving to all this iPad check-in stuff with wireless printers, those kinds of things. Also had a big exciting week. Did you watch The Voice this week? Because one of my buddies that has played guitar for me off and on since probably 2016 or so, he was on The Voice. And yeah, super exciting. Kevin Rogers.
That's right, John.
Sorry, that was me. John Legend turned around for him.
Wait for that falsetto, people.
I called it. Just wait. I think he's 23. Here it comes.
Yeah, I knew that would get... Yeah. Knew that.
Oh, so I was super proud of him. It was like this dad moment, really, because he's been around for a long time, and he doesn't get to play at our church very often. He played last Christmas with us, but honestly, he got stolen away from me many months ago because he's so talented. I remember I was asking another buddy in Tulsa that plays over at Victory Church, and I was like, do you have anybody that plays electric guitar that, even if they're not very good, like just beginners, that we could maybe start incorporating? And he gave me Kevin Rogers' name. He came and played, and I was like, Daniel doesn't know what he has in this guy. So I started having him play like every third week, and then going and playing with me other places. So yes, super proud little dad moment there. So if you watch The Voice, make sure and vote for Kevin Rogers, okay? So also, let's see what else is going on. I've got a few things to share. Hold on, I gotta clear my throat. And I'm back. If you have any questions, put them in the chat, and we're gonna move on to a very fun part of the live stream called Worship and Tech News. Today on Worship and Tech News, we're going to be talking about something that just happened. Breaking news in the land of worship and tech. Pro Presenter 7 comes out with what I'm going to have to make a full video about. I'm calling it the Ryland Russell update. Because seriously, like an hour ago, they came out with all the updates for Pro 7, and most of the updates are things that, if you saw the video I made called... I don't remember how many loathes and loves it was. I think 3 loves and 3 loathes of Pro Presenter. They addressed them. And so I think I'm going to be able to put my F1 key back on my keyboard. So that's going to be a whole video, but this was my favorite portion of the Pro 7 update, actually. So let's take a look at this.
Themes. Another way to put that is that you can now maintain text attributes across multiple outputs. Special attributes like underline and highlight, as well as object or text builds, now stay maintained as intended when applied with a theme, or used in an alternate theme. Edit text how you'd like to emphasize it, and the text will stay that way for your audience, regardless of whether it's going through a lower third theme or a different audience look or screen output. Here's a quick look at a video I made showing how this works. You'll see here on this slide that I have a call and a response. I have some text in white as well as some text that's in a different color, a different font, and it's even underlined.
So are you excited about
I'm
this?
using bullets,
I'm very
and
excited.
they're building in one after the next.
Basically, you
So
can-
when I click on the slide,
It'll retain your
build
formatting
one
now
line
on
in,
your
and then I
lower
click on it
thirds.
again, and it'll build the next line in. So when I trigger this slide, those text attributes will show here on my main screen, as well as in my lower third here going to my live stream. And as I build in and click through the slide, it will build in my bullets on both my in-person main screen as well as my live stream output.
Very nice, Cody. That's super exciting, guys, at least for me, because we use Pro 7 to control multiple different outputs, and especially the lower thirds. It's always been an annoyance that you couldn't, have the formatting be retained, and then you kind of you could go into the slide notes to make some other things, but we want to use our slide notes section for a totally different purpose. And, that it's going to retain the build-ins, that it's going to retain the formatting. That is super cool. So what do you guys think? Did you catch the little live stream from them? I think they've addressed some of the main gripes that I had. So props to Pro Presenter 7. Here's a question from Zani Hundo. Man, I'm sorry if I butchered that. How do you disable auto power off on your G7 after 30 minutes of idle screen? I'm talking about the ones on the sliders and the one in a corner on a zoom loop. Yeah, so we actually run 3 different G7s. I mean, I'm running a G7 right here on this live stream right here. And I've never had the issue of it powering off after 30 minutes. You might have to go into like your sleep menu and choose, never power off. That might be something you have to do. That's what I had to do on this Canon RP. I had to go in and set it to never go to sleep. But the HDMI will just stay active as long as it's actually, connected to something. So I'm not, one of the G7s I have is jailbroken. Like when you start it, a little exclamation point pops up. And I think maybe early on in the firmware, maybe I'm just kind of shooting in the dark now. You couldn't, and you had to jailbreak it. So if your firmware isn't up to date, definitely check that. But this G7, it's just normal. Like the person I bought it from had just never really used it. So it's just like it was when it came out of the factory, and it works for 30 minutes plus all the time. So this is exactly what I was about to say, unless they're talking about the record limit. So I think that the G7 does have a record limit, and I know one limitation of the G7 that you have to keep in consideration is you cannot record onto the SD card of the camera while outputting over the HDMI output, where the GH4, the G85, and the GH5 and all those lines, you can definitely do that. There's some times where I have wanted to just record locally on the wide shot of the camera to have a fallback, in case our live stream directors missed a cue, just to have a safe shot, recording locally on the camera. Now, if you have an extreme ATEM ISO or the ATEM Mini Pro ISO, then it can save those recordings onto your drive, which is really cool, and not even worry about recording to cameras. So, that would be my suggestions right there. If that doesn't answer your question, feel free to kind of elaborate and let us know what else, you're talking about. Something else I did want to share with you guys is a tool that I've just started kind of using, and it is a website from H2R, and it is called H2R Gear. So, what is cool about H2R Gear is that you can kind of lay out and plan out your whole complete video system. And the reason that I started doing this was because if you work in a church tech, you quickly realize how many adapters and how many cable runs and things start getting into the mix. And I don't want to be the only one that has that information. there's some kind of leadership trap thing when it talks about, the flow of information. I can't remember what it's called, but basically, I want to equip people like my intern to troubleshoot things on their own. Say, like this week, we had 2 of our TVs stop working on this side of the building for our scrolling announcements. Well, you can go in here and map out your chain that would go to that TV, and then my intern Brett could just hop on H2R Gear and look and see where are the fail points between that TV and ProPresenter 7. And he would realize that, if the TV before it is working, then I need to check and make sure that the Blackmagic adapter that it's looping out of is powered on. And so that's what it was. It was unplugged from the wall because they had to relocate some things in that room. And so as soon as we plug that back in, the rest of the chain will start working again. We don't do home runs back for every single TV. That would be way too much SDI cable. So, what's cool is like they've got a bunch of this stuff built in, like decimators and ATEMs and things like that. You can see here projectors, TVs, microphones. You could even do audio stuff if you wanted to, and it's really easy if you just want to create your own little thing to do it. And what's great, like for most churches, it will be completely free because I think you get 2 like sites basically to plan. This is really meant for somebody who's doing installs probably, and that's how he'll make money. H2R will. People that need to map out an install plan. But for us, like if we had one for our worship center and one for our youth center, then that's great. So have you guys ever used H2R Gear before? I've been really happy with it so far. So yeah, that's a thought there. Live production tips and tools asks this question. Any big difference between 10-bit and 8-bit while live streaming? I believe GH4 sends out 10-bit while G7 does 8-bit. So I still record in 8-bit for everything. You're saying that the GH4 sends out 10-bit. Now, what you can do with the GH4, if you have an external recorder like an Atomos or Shogun or something like that, you can record like 4K 10-bit 422, I think. While the G7, I think it's all 8-bit. The thing about streaming in 10-bit versus 8-bit, I don't think that most of your streaming services and probably most of your little interfaces and even YouTube and definitely not Facebook, right? They're not taking advantage, I don't think, of that 10-bit. Now, I'm not sure, though. That could be wrong. If you're outputting in 10-bit, maybe it does give you more latitude into your ATEM for dynamic range and things like that before it hits those other things. My opinion is that 8-bit versus 10-bit is not going to make that big of a difference in a set lighting environment like a church. What's going to make a bigger difference in dynamic range probably, not colors necessarily, is just the camera sensors and whichever brand you're going with and its native dynamic range. So honestly, all the professional work I do, all the video gigs that I go and record, I still record 4K 8-bit. I don't even mess with 10-bit, and honestly, it's just because I like to preview things on my Mac without having to drag them into Premiere, and you can't do that with 10-bit footage. The Finder, even in Big Sur, still doesn't support 10-bit that I know of. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm just being lazy at this point. So that's my thoughts on 10-bit versus 8-bit. Yeah, so this comment about the Canon 5D Mark IV, it powers off. That is one that I believe does have the limit. I've tried other older DSLRs, not mirrorless stuff from Canon especially, and while you can get it to show up on your ATEM, if it's just sitting there idle and it's not even recording, without somebody like touching the shutter or something like that, it will shut off after 30 minutes. So All right, Bradley has a question about Pro 7 and lower thirds. He said, I send lower thirds to my live stream via NDI. But if the Pro 7 operator decides to change the transition on the lyric slide, it changes on the lower third. How can I do this differently? So he's changing the transition, like making it a longer dissolve or something like that, and it also does it on the lower third. It shouldn't matter about NDI. That's just the way that it's getting there. So as long as they are changing the transition instead of globally on the global transition area and doing a right click on whichever slide they want to change the transition for, that should not affect your lower thirds theme, if I'm remembering that correctly. So whatever you have your theme set up as for your lower thirds, it should adopt that instead of the slide for your main display. So try that, Bradley, and see if that works. So I do have something really cool that I'm excited about. It's one of those deals that like is kind of geeky, but I'm excited because I think it'll help a lot of people that haven't found out about this little tech. And it is a wireless talkback solution. I run a wireless Beta 87A from Shure stuff whenever I'm leading worship, and I've ran into the problem many times where I wanted to say something to the band, or I wanted to say something to our Pro Presenter operator or the person running sound, and I just don't have that ability. The way we're set up, we keep that center area where I stand of the stage pretty clean. It does have some inputs for XLRs, but I don't want to have like two microphones sitting there. That was kind of the old solution. Or you would have a wired microphone with an AB kind of stomp box, so you could stomp that and switch. But I really wanted to keep it wireless, and I found this solution. So whenever it comes in, it's probably going to be about 30 days. I will test that out and share, if that's something that is working well for me. But that's something I'm excited about worship tech wise. You guys got any other questions? Let's see how our poll is doing. It looks like 54% of you have less than $5,000 for your whole worship and media tech annual budget. Man, that's where I started at my first church, Highland Park Baptist Church in Edmond. It's just a small church, and it's amazing what's the saying? Limitation is the accelerator for innovation, or something like that. Like, if you don't have much, you really get creative. So then we have, in second place, 23% of you have more than $20,000. So it's kind of both ends of the spectrum watching. And there's probably some of you, if you're above that 20K, you may be up in the 50s. You may be up 100,000. It just depends, scale of the church and that kind of thing. And I think that really the more important question is like the percentage of the budget. So let's see. How's the stream looking? Is it in my preview window here on YouTube? It looks real grainy, like real pixelated. Does it look good? It says excellent connection. So hopefully the picture is 1080p and good to go. All right. If you guys don't have any more questions right now, that's fine. Drop them in the chat. And I think it's time for us to move on to the next section of the show that I like to call Get Off My Church Lawn.
What's all that racket?
If it's not from the Broadman, I don't even sing it.
They just don't make music like they used to.
Amen. Right, brother? They just don't make that music like they used to. This is the section of the show where we find out if I'm becoming an old man and if I hate all the new worship music that's come out. Every week on the YouTubes, there's just bangers coming out from all the different churches, all the different artists, and it's so hard to keep up with what is new and fresh because it changes so quickly. So I like to just take a look at a song that maybe is in the top of the charts on praise charts, on CCLI, that people are sharing on Facebook and that I haven't really heard yet. And just look at it and see, is this a song that I should add to my possible songs we should do at church kind of thing. So we'll look at, the lyrics of it, the melodies, the instrumentation, and just the whole vibe of the song. So today on the live stream, we're going to be looking at a song called I Speak Jesus by Charity Gale. I have no idea who Charity Gale is. I've heard maybe 15 seconds of this song, but I've seen a lot of people sharing it, talking about it. So let's look at this song, I Speak Jesus by Charity Gale. Do y'all know this song? Are you already doing this song?
I just want to speak the name of Jesus.
Okay, I assume Charity was the girl. And maybe it is. Maybe it's a duet song. So far, we have the epic power ballad piano worship opening. Think Forever, Carrie Job, that kind of thing.
Over every heart and every mind. 'Cause I know there is peace within your presence. I speak Jesus. I just want to speak the name of Jesus.
All right, there she is.
Till every dark addiction starts to break.
I like that.
Declaring there is hope and there is freedom. I speak Jesus.
So far, the lyrics are great. Melody's very simple, like I'm already in my head singing along. Let's see where the chorus goes.
Your name is power. Your name is healing. Your name is life. Break every stronghold. Shine through the shadows. Burn like a fire.
Okay, so verse structure is kind of talking about like what we're going to do, right? Like I'm choosing to speak the name of Jesus over every situation in my life. That's great. Love it. And then they kind of flip it when it gets to the chorus. And now it's singing like, God, do these things. Come something, burn like a fire, show us your power, that kind of thing. That's cool. And the chorus is really short.
I just want to speak the name of Jesus.
Got to do the octave jump, second verse.
Over fear and all anxiety. To every soul held captive by depression, I speak Jesus.
I love that shot.
'Cause your name is power. Your name is healing. Your name is life. Yes.
All right, man. It's a powerful chorus for sure. And I like Bradley's comment. He said there's not a single color in this video, in this setup for their stage. Super simple. Just some backlight, key. The thing that makes this environment so great is the worshipers, right? People engaged. And I love that they're showing that. I'm not evaluating that. Sorry, this isn't a stream review. This is a song review. Let's keep going.
It is. Break every stronghold. Shine through the shadows. Burn like a fire. Your name is power. And we declare it now. Your
Okay. It's pretty simple. I'm not hearing any like guitars, really. It seems kind of like old schooler to me. Just all about the melody. Here's the bridge.
Jesus in the darkness over every enemy. And Jesus for my family, I speak the holy name, Jesus. Oh,
Take it up.
shout Jesus from the mountain.
4 on the floor.
Jesus in the streets. Jesus in the darkness over every.
It puts a smile on my face.
Jesus for my family, I speak the holy name, Jesus.
Are they going to drop out here, or is it stay big?
Your name is healing.
All right, stay big. All right, so that is I Speak Jesus by Charity Gale. Yeah, I dig it. It's a pretty good song. I think there's a reason there why people are sharing this on Facebook and in groups, and why it's at the top of praise charts. Pretty powerful lyrics. First listen through, I think it's pretty good. What do you guys think? You guys already doing that song at your church, or have you heard it? You got it on the list? Peter asked a good question here. So YouTube doesn't give you a copyright strike for playing these music videos? Yes, Peter. YouTube does give me a copyright strike on these. So all of these live streams, typically what happens whenever you do something like this, there's a thing called fair use where since I am evaluating the song and the structure of the song, the music of the song, things like that, there's a thing called fair use. And so I technically could, if I get a copyright strike, file a claim against it and say, I have the ability to use this for fair use for educational purposes. It's not worth it for me to do that at this point, because if they say no, then it just kind of makes your YouTube channel like, you don't want copyright strikes, right? But all that it will do usually is one of two things. Sometimes it doesn't even catch it because maybe I'm doing it in segments. If they do catch it, then sometimes they'll say, we're going to run ads on your video and you will share the income with them if you choose to monetize. I don't choose to monetize any of these live streams for this purpose. There's just way too many. We're evaluating people's live streams and stuff. So the only way I make money on these live streams is if somebody does a super chat. But that's really not the point. The point is to kind of have community with you guys. And then sometimes there's happened one time where Elevation said, you can't have that in your video, but YouTube gives the option to just go back and say, just splice out that section where I did the live kind of evaluation of the song. So then if you go back and watch that one, it just kind of skips right over that section. So that's a little bit of behind the scenes on how the copyright stuff works. But typically if it says, it's flagged your thing for copyright, it's not anything wrong with that. It's just sending money to that group, any of the ad money that would get, unless you get a split from them. So I hope that makes sense. What's up, Dustin? Hope you're doing well, man. Let's see. Bradley says our pastor posted this song on our group chat this morning. He said, look into it. Perfect timing. Hey, isn't that funny? That's crazy how small the worship world has become thanks to the internet. If you're very old, you probably remember getting like promo tapes and CDs, or going into Mardell and getting the CDs or the tapes and going to the little rooms to listen to songs, things like that. So Lincoln has a good question here. What causes a stream to lose frames or skip? We use an ATEM switcher to vMix to stream. So the first thing that I would say is make sure that what you're streaming at in your ATEM, the settings, if you've chosen 24p or you've chosen 2997, make sure that what you're actually sending into your ATEM is that. So I think it's easier now to kind of forget about that because your ATEM has built-in scalers. And so like if I send my camera, even if it's set to send 60p, it will it'll convert it for me, right, to 30p. I don't think that's really what you're probably talking about, losing frames or skipping. Like, that sounds more like an internet thing. So what you need to be watching is the cache on your live stream. If you're streaming from the ATEM, if it's a newer one that does encoding, it will actually show you, if you're streaming from it, then, you're going to vMix, though. So I'm not sure about vMix if it has, like, on mine, it tells me right here, my data rate is 6.22 megabytes per second, and it's a good quality, cache is okay. But if you start losing frames, it's probably an internet issue. So, yeah. Well, that is our Get Off My Church Lawn segment. Remember, that was Charity Gale, I Speak Jesus. I think right now it's time to get into some live stream reviews. We've got about maybe 15 minutes here where I can take a look at these two live stream from churches that submitted them. The first one that we're going to look at, if I can hop over here into my Google Forms, came from, we got two. One is from a church called Ciudad de Salvacion. I apologize for my Spanish. And then the other is from Grace Church, I believe. And they're kind of both ends of the spectrum. We got one that is kind of, getting their feet wet into the live stream world. And then we've got Grace Church of Arvada that you'll see they've got a lot going on. So we're going to learn and we're going to help each other kind of get better as we look at these. So let's look first at Ciudad de Salvacion. This is Luis Medina's church, or not his church, but it's where he is helping. And they run two Panasonics AG CX350s, and I think those are like camcorder style. And then it goes into a Roland V1 HD mixer, which is kind of like an ATEM Mini kind of thing. So there's only two cameras, and he wants help with like directing, shot composition, and that kind of stuff. I'm going to have to see if I can pull it up over here on Facebook. I've got it over here on Facebook, but what did I do? Oh, yes. I can't download the ones off Facebook, so I have to actually pull them up in a browser window, which if you guys have been in tech ministry long, don't ever trust the internet to play something live when you need it to play. So, let's see. People are messaging me on Facebook for tech help on the Q&A. Just post in the chat if you can. All right, so let's play a little bit of their stream here, and we'll see what we got. Here we go.
Como un río inundándonos, es una fuente restaurándonos, es tan profundo como el inmenso mar, el río crece y crece.
All right, cool. So the first thing I noticed is that I liked I just found a spot in their service where a song was starting. I liked when the song started, you went to the instrumentalist that was actually doing that part of the song. That was a good thing as far as shot composition. I liked how tight you were on them. Headspace, framing was all pretty good. One thing I am noticing on this shot right here, I'm wondering, it seems like it's kind of going up and down a little bit with the beat, which makes me think it's not isolated enough, the tripod, from the vibrations in your room. Take a look here and see if I'm crazy. That one. So I hope I'm not crazy. That looked like that was happening every time the kick drum would hit. It kind of had that little vibration. If you have image stabilization enabled on your camcorder, it's probably, compensating with that. All right, let's keep going.
Hoy se desborda el río de Dios en mi corazón.
Well, for only 2 cameras, I like that you are varying it up, and it's not just like a wide shot and a tighter shot. You have somebody manning them, which is good.
Tenemos vida en el río. Tenemos vida en el río. Tenemos vida en el río.
Okay, and so like here's a wide shot where they've got some movement. So if it really is only 2 cams, like they're doing a decent job here of mixing it up. Going back to the guitarist on the pass. He needs to be louder in the mix though. Because I hear a lot of piano, and that's a guitar-led song. Slow pan in, that's good. Okay, one thought here on this shot. Since you're over to the left, let me make sure I'm still on here while I'm talking. Yeah, okay. Since this camera is over on the left side of your sound booth or whatever, it looks like to me that it's not level. If you look at all these lines you have, the front steps and then your LED tape behind, it's kind of like this. And so, you know, if you can compensate with your ball head to make this shot level, because this is level, that's great. Tighten that shot up a little bit, too much headroom, if you can, or just come down a little bit. Female drummer! Yeah! I like that you're getting the drummer. It'd be better if it was a closer shot, like in the cage, but that's okay. All right, so during worship, that's pretty good. Let's look at, I wanted to point out something else that I saw. They've got one of their worship leaders here. She really likes to pace, like back and forth, back and forth. And what I was noticing was, I'm not sure what ball head you have these Panasonics on, but it doesn't look super smooth back and forth, and it looks like you're going to have to be doing a lot of follow cam stuff. So you might look into maybe upgrading your tripod, since it looks like you're having to be super zoomed in. If it's not, comment in the chat if you're watching this live with us. I think it was Luis. So it's not bad. It's really not bad. But just stuff like that where it's kind of like, ooh, ooh. Sorry, Mike. Since she does do a lot of that. Let's look at your preaching real quick, if I can find it, and see if it's a similar situation. So he's a pacer as well. But you guys stay up with him pretty good. Let's see if it gets jerky at all. It's tough, man. So that's my initial thoughts. Sound mix was not bad. And I tried to give you just a few brief thoughts there. But thanks for sharing your live stream. If you can add a couple cameras that give more of a like up in the mix, like either on the stage with the band, or bring one of those cameras down, like where you can kind of get in the mix of the crowd. That's just my preference, instead of having them up here, like look, shooting down to the stage, like having it like in that Charity Gale video that we watched. Like it showed the people like interacting, and your church is very interactive with their worship. I mean, very expressive. I mean, they get into it, So there's a lot to kind of help the people that are watching online not feel like spectators, a fly on the wall up here, but more like a congregant there worshiping. So that's my initial thought there for Ciudad de Salvacion. All right, let's go over to the chat and see if you guys had any thoughts that you shared. Everyone else that is watching currently thought that your stream was perfect. So I'm not like the be-all, end-all person. We've been streaming for quite a while, and I've tried to, make it as good as I could. So let's just help each other out. If you have little things that you see, a lot of times you see it, and I don't even see it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. So-and-so mentioned that as well. Are you guys fans of The Office? I try to hide something from The Office in each one of my live streams. So let's move on to our last live stream review. and it is from Grace Church. So let me read you the specs of what Grace Church is working with currently. All right, this is from Brian Garrett. He says that they have a Blackmagic switcher. They have 3 Ursa broadcasts, 2 on sticks and 1 on a Dana dolly, which I believe is like one you have to actually push, like a dolly on the floor. I could be wrong about that. Then they have 2 Canon C200s that roam around. One's on an RS2 gimbal from DJI, and the other one is just handheld. Then they also have 3 Blackmagic Micro Studio cameras for the keys, drums, and bass. I wonder if those are just static shots. We'll see here in just a minute. The audio is coming from CL5 for front of house and another CL5 for broadcast. So they have a separate broadcast mix. So this church, Grace Church in Arvada, I don't know where Arvada is, but they've got a setup that a lot of people drool over. So let's see if technology makes a difference. If upgrading all these things makes a vast difference in the live stream quality. And he wants the most feedback on the audio mix. So they feel pretty confident about their video, which it sounds like they should be. So let's take a look at Grace Church in Arvada.
We're about ready to kick off the service, but when service is over, make sure you stick around to hear a special message just for you.
I like the way they do this.
We're going to get started with some music, so make sure to turn up the volume on your device and get ready to sing along. On behalf of the elders, staff, and volunteers here at Grace, we're so glad you're watching with us today.
I like how they do this little intro into their service, you know, like, hey, turn it up. We're gonna worship together.
Enjoy the service.
Okay, this is cool. The countdown's still going, and they've got somebody on that DJI RS2 just walking down with their C200. I like that. See how they transition.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Grace Mind.
That's smooth right there. It's just bam. As soon as that music ends, they're right into House of the Lord by Phil Wickham, you know? So I'm sure that's all pre-mapped out with Click. Let's listen for a little bit, and then I'll comment. So I'm not going to talk.
My name is Esther. We're so excited you joined us, whether you're in the room or online. If you're here in the room, I would love it if you stand as we kick off service singing and worshiping our God. We worship the God who was. We worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. He opened the prison doors. He parted the raging sea. My God, he holds the victory.
All right. So if you're in a similar situation as me, then you probably, I'm assuming, what I'm hearing right now is that she is louder in the left ear than she is in the right side. I'm even watching my meters over here, and the left is a little bit hotter on my task cam. So what I'm assuming, what happens to us as well, is that she doesn't lead every song, and so you usually got her panned. But I like for whoever is actually leading the song to be in the center of the pan. Let's listen some more.
There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we walk quiet. We shout and praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is showing in this place. We walk quiet. We shout and praise. We shout and praise.
All right, so other thoughts. I mean, the video stuff is great. Like, you guys have got that down. It looks like you got the stuff moving around. You got people on stage. You got great gear. All awesome. More thoughts about audio. To me, it just sounds like your hi-hats are a little sibilant. Like, I mean, I'm using my 64 audio ears, so they're pretty flat as far as this goes. but they're a little loud in the mix. They're sticking out a little bit. I really like it. Kind of has the nice blend for the house mics. I mean, the room mics. Enough reverb, but not too much. I like that I can hear the tracks because this song definitely needs the tracks.
We sing to the God who always makes a way. 'Cause he hung upon that cross, then he rose up from that grave.
All right, maybe a little much of the room tails there.
My God, still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. We walk quietly. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We walk quietly. We shout out your praise.
All right, so if you're watching and you're trying to look for like ideas for doing video stuff, take note of how there's always movement in their shots. It's not much static stuff. They're coming out of one move into another move. Nothing that's too similar. Things like that. I want to go to a different song in their set and see, if it's somebody else leading. That's another girl song. Maybe they only have female leads. Let's see. Let's go to this one.
Love
Love that shot. That's slick. I like the panning and the drums as he went around the toms. It was good. Awesome, man. All right. Well, what do you guys think? You have any thoughts on the audio mix there? I want to just applaud you. Like, that is an awesome job, Grace Church. I hope that you're reaching a lot of people by putting the gospel out there in this excellent way. And what's happening in the room really does translate online in your stream really well. So those are just my kind of thoughts. Let's end this stream today by just ending on some Q&A stuff. So if you have a question, drop it in the chat. And yeah, we'll see if I have an answer. If not, I'll say I don't have an answer. Gats Jats. I don't know what that name is, but I like it. Any solution on how we can get a cellular hotspot combined with Wi-Fi for a faster upload speed. We are in an old sanctuary that uses DSL ports for internet and not coax ports, as most residences have. Yeah. Well, the new Web Presenter HD from Blackmagic has the ability to also put in a hotspot there in the front with USB-C. Let's see if I can pull that up over here and show you. We have not had to use that yet, but it is nice to possibly have that ability. That way you have a little bit of redundancy, and it does flip over pretty quickly if you lose Wi-Fi. So if we go here, let's see if I can show you. They've got the Web Presenter HD has, your live stream Ethernet protocol there on the front, but then right there on the front, you see that little USB little flap. You can bring that down, and I believe it's USB-C to where you can plug a hotspot into it. And there's other things out there. what is it? The VidiU? Is that the Teradek one? Is it Teradek that makes that one? There's some that they make, if you look for like sports stuff, there's some that can bond up to like 4 different things, or the Nano Pearl, I think, is another one that can bond multiple connections to make it a faster connection. Sometimes I say these things, then I think, is that true? So don't take my word for it. But yeah, there's definitely devices out there. So yeah, Peter says cellular bonding is what you're talking about. So Speedify, he suggests. Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of Speedify. Well, Speedify, I thought Speedify is the thing where you can do multiple connections. I thought that was like software based or something. I heard the guys from H2R Graphics talking about trying to use it when they were connecting to do a live stream between Australia and wherever he's at, like in England, somewhere up in that area. But I'm not familiar, so you could look into that. The Sultan of Smooth says, audio mix was a little soft on TV. Has the drums. Right there, I think that adds a lot of dynamics overall to the overall mix. Yeah, and as far as the overall volume, that may not be the original overall volume because it is going out of my computer into another submixer, and I don't have any limiters or any compression on there, so it is whatever's happening, and I just try to make it where it's not clipping, but it's really loud, so it could be, who knows, my volume could have been down a little bit on my computer too. But I think the Sultan of Smooth is a drummer though, so he's always going to want more drums in the mix. I listen to some popular, recordings of stuff, and the drums really aren't that loud in the mix, but they cut through the mix. And so I think that's somehow making that distinction when you're mixing is important, to carve out space in the EQ spectrum for the snare to cut through and for the kick to not be buried by the bass guitar and things like that. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed the live stream today. I hope you found it helpful. If you have, I would really appreciate it if you would just like this video, subscribe to the channel. I've got lots of ideas out there. If you want me to keep doing these live streams, let me know. I enjoy doing them, but if you want me to look at your church's live stream, don't be scared. It's okay. You don't have to wait for the perfect week. I hope you can see that, I'm not mean or anything. Ours, if you go watch our churches, which is CBC Owasso, and maybe you should, to determine if I'm even, worth your time to look at your stream. It's never perfect. We have one service, one try at it. This is not a pre-recorded thing. And not that it ever has to be perfect, right? We just want to make it the best that it can be. So don't wait for the perfect week to send it to me with a certain timestamp, watch this part. Yeah, I mean, if it's the greatest thing ever, I don't have any good feedback for you. So I will show you this picture from our staff photos that we took. Let me see if I can. Okay, so this, oh man, it's not going to show, is it? Hold on. We're going to get there. That's our youth pastor. Yeah, he's shirtless in our picture. All right, I got to go to this one now because that camera's all out of focus. Because I only believe in manual focus in the studio. Even though the RP has great autofocus, I still don't trust it. Yeah. Appreciate you guys. I forgot what I was going to say. How about we end the stream because I think I'm done, y'all. My brain's fried. I hope that you'll have a great weekend. I hope your churches are successful in sharing the gospel, that many people come to know Christ, that your church is encouraged, that you don't have any worship fails this weekend, and that most importantly, we remember we can do a lot of great things. Let's do them all for the right reasons. See you in the next one.